How does it make you feel that your fifth album has hit 20 years old?
Well, yeah, I think we can all look at like the passage of time and go, fuck me, that's going fast, isn't it? And how did it happen? I mean, it's 40 years next year that John and me have been working together.
Wow.
So actually, that's a career, that's a lifetime really of an adult working path. But as you know what, time is a weird thing, isn't it? It seems like a couple of weeks ago, 2006, but it also seems like an eternity ago as well. And I'm still quite happy with that work, the Sound Mirrors work. I think it's held up well.
I was going to ask, how do you think it fits into the Coldcut catalogue of all the things you've done?
I think we've always been quite easily distracted and, always casting around for something new. It's a kind of musical ADHD, I suppose, an overused term perhaps. But that album was the album where I would say Jonathan took more of a leading role than some of the stuff in the past. I was the one initially that knew how to operate a computer, and I was really happy with tech. And John was more on the kind of selector DJing side, but he did get stuck in. In fact, he largely composed the first ever Ninja Tune release, Bogus Orders and Breaks. That was his first attempts really at using sampler and sequencer and just getting into it himself. And then for Sound Mirrors, I was really involved in a bunch of other projects, and John took a leading role on that. I remember going down to the Dairy studio in Brixton where he was working with an engineer, and they played me Whistle and a Prayer. And I just said, wow, that's excellent. I can't fault that. It sounded just perfect and really, ticked all the boxes of goodness, really. And I thought, wow, he's surpassing me now, actually. But it's a kind of good friendly competition to have. But I did then steam in later with some quite good tracks, which I mainly put together, like Everything's Under Control and True School. So I kind of retrieved at the last moment a decent contribution to it.
I was going to ask, how did you work in the studio back then? I mean, maybe how do you still work now? Is it kind of one of you goes in and does something, the other adds touches, or you're actually side by side on the computer stool? Or
it's always changing, but look back over that 40-year period, a lot of the time we've let each other do our own thing, and then we've sort of talked about stuff and like made suggestions, but we've been happy to let each of us take a creative lead sometimes, and then sometimes we'll look at it and we'll say, okay, well, actually that's not suitable as a Coldcut tune. It can be a Matte Black release. John, not so much, but I've been more like doing sort of odd little projects and so on. But generally, it's good when we both agree, like, yeah, this is Coldcut. This can go out with the Coldcut name. And it takes many forms.
I'm interested. You said that something might not be suitable for Coldcut. What would make it not suitable? Because I mean, the Coldcut catalog, all the music you've done, is very varied. I can imagine a lot of things fitting under that umbrella.
Yes, but I mean, to be frank, John might feel actually it's just not to his taste,
right?
And I respect that if he feels that, So, and I know there have been occasions when John's done something or been working on something, and I've said, no, I don't actually like that. I'm not happy with it, and he's accepted that with good grace. So we have quite a good, flexible working accord with each other.
How did you get to that point? I mean, that seems very healthy.
So when we started off, I was basically making the first few tracks. Like I say, I was the one that could operate the decks and the 4-track and the sequencer. And John was known as a sort of key DJ around town. He was on Kiss FM. He'd been doing these brilliant parties called Meltdown and Flim Flam. Those were two series of warehouse parties that were much loved. So he was sort of better known than me, but I was actually more technically, as a DJ, more technically savvy. And then we put these first records out, and then we started having some arguments about like who should be credited and how we should split the money. And so we came up with a solution, which was just to say, let's just split everything 50-50, right? Not worry about who found what sample or who sequenced this bit. Let's call it Coldcut. Anything Coldcut, we'll split 50-50, be credited to Coldcut, and any returns from it will be divided equally. And that's worked really amazingly well as a sort of, do you know what game theory is?
Yes, yeah.
All about whether you cooperate or you defect with your opponent or your partner, depending on what your take on it is. So we decided it was better to cooperate and be partners. And that understanding has worked really amazingly well. And that's kept us, you know, in a good relationship with each other over 40 years. Sometimes there have been problems about, does this fall into Coldcut or doesn't it? But we've negotiated those successfully. And a lot of other partnerships that started around when we did have not stood the test of time. And often things split up, typically about arguments about credit and money. So this solution enabled us to avoid that. And I'm going on a bit, but so that also coming off that, then it's like, okay, mate, well, you can go on and make a track, just do your thing. And assuming I'm cool with it, that can be Coldcut, and I can do the same thing, or I can go off and work on some interactive software, and that can be a Coldcut release as well. So it provided creative space for each of us to do our own thing within the partnership.
I was going to say that I think they say that's the reason that Queen were together for so long, isn't it? They just split all the money. I think REM did it as well. It seems like a very good way of working, basically.
Yes. Well, the converse of that is that, you know, the lead vocalist is the one who sort of gets all the shine and the most adulation, and that can easily go to their heads. And they sometimes forget that actually it's the group that people like. You can see that sometimes with big bands that have had arguments. And you know, Mick Jagger's solo career was not particularly successful, was it? Even though he is the front man and, you know, obviously provides a lot of the attraction of the Stones, but people like them as a group. Pink Floyd, similar.
Obviously, many groups and artists have passed through the Ninja Tunes doors. I mean, do you sort of give them this piece of advice, or is it a bit like, well, you got to, you know, work it out by yourself?
I think people have to work it out themselves, because, you know, what's right for us might not be right for someone else.
Right.
But, you know, we have on occasion done a bit of mentoring, and I think people read our history actually, and they take what they like from that. So hopefully provided it's a functional model.
Going back to Sound Mirrors, it strikes me as an album that doesn't sort of have a particular genre. I mean, there's house and there's hip hop and there's, you know, upbeat things and all kinds of different things. When you're making music, this kind of interests me. Like, how do you decide where to go? Because at some point you've got to be like, well, this is a BPM and this is where the beat's going to be, and that kind of defines what you know, what genre the song will be. I know people don't like to talk about genres, but you know what I mean. So when is the moment when you come in and you're like, all right, 125 BPM, 4 to the floor kick drum or something? Or
that's a really good question. I mean, I'm happy with genres as long as you can have more than one at the same time. So the idea that your record's got to be in this box or this one is old-fashioned and applies to old school record shops with vinyl, which, you know, have their charm. But we've always liked to be in as different boxes as possible. So it's more about keywords nowadays. It's more about how you search for stuff. You know what I mean? And I think to John and me, the great John Peel had a lot of influence on making it cool to be into a lot of different sorts of music. And then hip hop provided the kind of blending machine to be able to literally mix influences and genres and records together. So we kind of took that and ran with it, and that cut and paste excitement and freedom is what we've worked out of, basically. And you know, like you say, BPM, and if you take a hip hop track and speed it up, it sounds like jungle, right?
Yeah.
They're all made using similar tech nowadays. Most electronic music is, and so I don't get too hung up on genres. We just like them all. If you can draw the connect, you're saying where does the sound mirrors fit in? You can draw the connect to Journeys by DJ, which was also a montage, right, of all different influences. So that we've always been like that, just, you know, in love with the diversity of sounds that as DJs and music lovers we like to play with.
But to sort of to insist for a bit, like when you go into the studio and you open up your computer or your drum machine or whatever, how do you know what BPM to put? Like, do you have sort of an idea? Okay, I'm going to make something that's house, or is it just like, I'll put 138 and see what happens?
If you had to guess, though, I think you probably know the answer to that, especially if one starts, as Coldcut did, with samples.
Yeah.
And records. Yeah. So we say, kids, what time is it? You know, we based it on Funky Drummer and Curtis Blow Party Time, and they were like 106, 110 BPM. So that was the BPM we operated at. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could start seeing what happens if you take a 106 BPM break and speed it up to 160, and then, you know, you get jungle, right? So
yeah.
You bust out of that as well. But I'd say, you know, it's not like we go into the studio, like it generally emerges from the material. Montage emerges from the material that you've got to sample in. Yeah, it just I've thought about this quite a lot. It just naturally seems to emerge,
right,
from a bunch of material and starting to play with it and start slopping it over itself, and connections just automatically emerge, and then that leads to a shape, and then if you're lucky, the BPM will be answered automatically out of that shape.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like the fluidity of electronic sound. And if you look, I'm actually as proud of our app Jam Pro as I am of any of our recorded works, because to me that's our statement on montage and electronic music and the plasticity of sound, that you can go anywhere with it. So with Jam, you know, you can take a track and you can just speed it up, and you know, if I'm playing a live set and I feel it needs to be a bit more lively, I'll play a track at 125 rather than 105, and you know, all the stuff works together, so generally you can get away with that. And also, say you can get Bonobo Eyes Down, which is a beautiful track. You can get that as a set in Jam Pro, right? Because he gave us the stems, we made a set out of it. But as well as having the original elements in it, we've also shoehorned in a bunch of other what we call remix clips. So there's like a half speed, I think that's 130, but there's a half speed reggae swing dub drum track at 65, right? So you can take it and turn it into a dub track just by introducing a different sample, a different drum feel to it. And I just enjoy that. The freedom of being able to take things instantly in any direction using a piece of interactive software, an instrument like Jam.
A question just occurred to me. I'm not quite sure where I'm going, but I'll give it a go. Like, I mean, thinking of something like Jam, it strikes me you like the idea that everyone can make music, right?
Correct.
So so do I. But at the same time, I slightly worry about the amount of music being released. And so I don't quite know where to stand, if you see what I mean, because I'd like everyone to make music, but at the same time, 80,000 tracks a day to Spotify or whatever seems a bit too much. But then who am I to say don't release your music? Where do you stand?
Well, you know, it's good to sort of be asking yourself these questions, right? Because they're not questions that have a direct answer. We've got to get away from binary thinking.
Yeah.
Not non-binary is a word which can be applied to anything, or like a 360 view. So totally, you know, there's too much new music out there. Fuck it, it's killing everything. And then with AI slop, you know, but actually I've played around with the AI things. They're terrific fun. And it may be that people that wouldn't otherwise be able to make a track have got some really good ideas, perhaps for vocals or a theme for a song, which could be really amazing, which they can realize, which wouldn't otherwise happen. However, the oversupply of music, I think I'm out of my NDA with Google now. They showed me their system at Ibiza IMS a couple of years ago. And I said, yeah, it blows my mind. But my mind's been blown already because my mates had showed me some stuff like that a couple of years before that. And I said, it solves a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
A shortage of music. Right? So they didn't know quite how to take that. But so backtracking then, who am I to say, like, no, you shouldn't make music, there's not enough room for you to express yourself? But if you could think like, okay, well, I'm going to, without mentioning names, like say, someone who wants to be a techno DJ, and that they think that's going to be their career, terrific, go for it. But is that really going to be a career now or in a few years' time? So it might be better, don't give up the day job and just stick with your hobby. But then I used to say that I never discourage people, right? So,
yeah.
But like a worried parent, I might say, maybe it's better to keep music as your passion, right? But then again, the world's so fucking crazy at the moment. The pace of change is so insane. And, AI is just one of the sort of tipping points and that's going on. All the old ways of like, better study and become a doctor or be a lawyer, you'll never be out of a job then, always have some money coming in. All those certainties, they're gone now.
Yeah.
Actually, nowadays I'm saying, no, actually, just go for it. Just do whatever you want, because the old sure things don't work anymore. The levers don't work.
I was going to ask about AI actually. When you played around, experimented with AI, did you at any point ask it to make a Coldcut song? I know some systems don't allow you that, but I think
no. Well, I've been messing around with this stuff for 50 years, yeah. So before the current LLM craze, I was already playing with some stuff like that. What was that thing called? Anyway, a few years ago, I did like get it a sort of earlier system to do a Coldcut track, and it came up with something that I thought was pretty cool. I think I got it to remix beats and pieces, and it like sped it up and put all this dubstep stuff in. And it's like, actually, yeah, that's cool. But I'm totally on the, just to go back to saying, I'm totally on the horns of the same dilemma myself, because we created our own monster. It's like, yeah, come on in, everyone, let's just make music, and it's really easy, and like we make it even easier by making jam. So it's like Lego. It's great, isn't it? And it is, but do I actually want to listen to a lot of music that's made like that, or do it? In fact, I want to hear something that's a bit more, even like real music, acoustic. Went to see Thundercat last night. It wasn't like, I found it a bit too jazzy, but the guy can seriously play his instrument and loves doing it. And it's the joy of that's clear to see, isn't it?
Well, also, I think that kind of personality will really be important in the AI age, because you couldn't invent Thundercat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what kind of prompts you'd put in to come up with Thundercat. He's just incredibly, he's brilliant kind of person, but like incredibly different, like.
Yeah. So that's, hopefully humanity will manage to hang on to the human will still be respected, loved, and emulated. Who wants to emulate an AI? No.
I've got very, very sidetracked. Going back to sound mirrors. How did you work out what guests to get in? Like, how did you get Roots Maneuver on True School, for example?
Well, as referred to that track, I went to India for this. It was my first visit to India. A British Council thing arranged, and I went with Aki Nawaz from Fundamental, I think, isn't he? He's from Nation Records, really interesting musician. I was like, I need some Bollywood records. Do you know anything about it? He said, well, this looks pretty good. 5 CD set, Bollywood hits the last 50 years. So I bought it. And then I didn't listen to it for like several years, 2 or 3 years. And one day I put it on and it was like, da-da-da, da-da-da, and on one track. I was like, there's my sounds, right? So then I put the track together. That sat around for a while. And then, like I say, John was sort of leading on that record. And I was like, fuck, I need to do something here. This track's sounding good. Let me put it out there. So then I think it was Peter Quick's suggestion to see if Rodney could jump on the track. And I was away for a bit. I came back and Pete said, yeah, Rodney's done a vocal to the track. I said, is it good? He says, yeah, it's great. I said, are we in single territory? He said, yes, I think we are. So then I listened to it. It's like, yahoo! Rodney's come through with a blinder. So yeah,
top 75 territory as well. Which
yeah, it's I'm happy with that track. It's a joyful track. Robert Owens on Walk a Mile is an interesting one. So again, John totally put that track together with this guy Paul Brook, who used to program loads of stuff with us. He was our main programmer for ages, and John worked with him closely more than me. He was great. He's passed away now, but they did this track. It was John's idea, cover version of Joe South, Walk a Mile, and we got a guest vocal on it, or a demo vocal, and it's like, yeah, this is something, it's good, but we don't know what to do with it. Sat around for a couple of years, we're listening in the A&R meeting at Ninja Tune, trying to work out what the fuck to do, pull this album together, and we're like, yeah, we need a killer vocal on this, and then one of the younger ninjas, I can't remember who it was, but someone who joined recently, said, yeah, what about someone like Robert Owens? And we're like, oh, what a great suggestion. Yeah, but he probably lives in Chicago and would want a shitload of money. But it turned out he lived in London and he was well up for it. So that was a great suggestion from one of our crew.
That's an excellent song as well.
Yeah, writing really good songs, like songs with a chorus and a meaning and so on, actually really difficult.
Yeah.
And that's why some of our best successes have been with cover versions. For example, Walk a Mile. For example, The Only Way Is Up. And even Autumn Leaves as well. So they've been 3 bangers for Coldcut, which, and there's a lot of other great songs lying there, many of them on John's hard drive with his fantastic collection, particularly of old soul and stuff, which we should delve into and see what else we can dig up and bring out, because there's gold there. Should be heard.
I wanted to mention for a moment, it's like train spotting moment, the Switch remix of True School, which is an amazing song as well. I really like that.
Yeah, Dave. He's a super producer, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's not so normal for a UK producer to break through like that and then go to the States and then really establish themselves well, which is what he's done. Of course, he was half of what they call with Diplo. You know who I mean?
Pond of Floor. I know exactly who you mean.
Major Lazer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So yeah, he went in, and then that was another banger.
I wanted to ask about a Walk a Mile in my shoes, because, well, I was gonna say that it feels like a return for your house roots, and then I realised, well, house kind of came second to hip hop, but like for me, who's of a certain age, obviously my first introduction to your music was Doctor in the House,
right?
And yeah, I mean, how do you?
It's hip hop, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but the funny thing was, I think in my mind, it always felt like 2 different things. Like, I think it was only quite late on that I kind of put together that Coldcut with that Coldcut, if you see what I mean.
Well, that's like, as we started off saying, John and me were just well into music, particularly, let's say it, black music. As 2 white guys, we fell in love with black music, and I still think black music is the greatest thing ever, basically. And I think it's good to call it black music because it comes from black people and black culture. And I also like the phrase MOBO, which they use, like the MOBO Awards, music of black origin.
Yeah,
it's a good phrase, a fair phrase as well. But hip hop and house, two incredibly strong plants that sprung up from that culture, and we just love both of them. And as DJs, we would play all those records, play hip hop records, play house records, dig the roots of all those records. Electros are sort of joining, or a third ingredient or style, which is a kind of intersection between those cultures. It's fascinating. And then we were just like, yeah, let's mix it all together.
Would it be fair to say that people possibly weren't expecting a house tune from you in 2006? Or had it got to the stage where people just thought Coldcut could be anything?
I think we carved out that space where we could be anything. Like I say, JDJ did that. Jones by DJ did that for us. So, and you look back, Doctor in the House is house speed with an acid house bass line, but it's full of hip hop samples and breaks and stuff. And then we came out with Stop This Crazy Thing, which was a go-go track, which is a Washington DC sort of funk track, really, but nodding towards hip hop. And so there's Curtis Blow, an intersection point there. So no, I don't think people were surprised, because it's all a matter of BPM, really.
Yeah. You also worked with Annette Peacock, who's a pioneer of electronic music, on the album. How did that come about, and what was Annette like to work with?
Well, it's some, quite a few of those tracks, we sent the tracks off, and then the vocalists did their thing and came back. So we didn't actually get to hang out with Annette functionally, but John and I were just aware of her as a key figure in avant-garde jazz, and as a synth pioneer. There's not many women recognized. They're there. Did you see that Sisters with Transistors documentary?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
But what's that? Science, which is discovering that which already exists, has become a competitive sport between nations. I don't know that. I can't remember the name of that track, but it's a blinder, really long track, fantastic drum break at the beginning, really well recorded. She's just a cool person, basically, a cool artist, a true artist.
And just for the kick, the song she's on is really hard as well. Like, did you hear back? Like, did you get sort of feedback? She was into it, or
she liked it. She's hip. She knew the kids are feeling the fast electronic dance sound, and she's been around as well, so she's seen styles come and go as well.
So as I mentioned, Sound Mirrors was 20 years ago. I know there have been released. Yeah, that was released with On You Sound, I think 2017, and the Keller Kettler album in the 2020s. But maybe I shouldn't ask this, but do you think we might see a Coldcut album any point in the future?
Well, never say never. But the At Zero album I'm quite pleased with as well, even though it wasn't directly Coldcut. We put it together. And I think that was a good album. I don't know, I'm more interested in making a film or interactive piece of software or an AI system, or building the future of creative networks as an art form. So I'm more into sort of facilitating stuff at the moment. But just yesterday was hanging out with John, played him a track I've been doing. Do you know Shingy, the artist?
Rings a bell, but I wouldn't.
In the Noisettes.
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah.
She's incredible vocalist, and I think she plays bass, but she's worked with this charity In Place of War. They're the ones who took us to South Africa for Keller Kettler. So they asked us to do a remix of a Shingy track, which is about water. And so I got in a couple of friends of mine, Shumba Masai and Aaron, what's his name, Kynes. And we worked on that yesterday, and I think we've created a really exciting, modern African track. She hasn't heard it yet. We're going to send it over. So I think we're on to a good one with that. And John really liked it as well. So that will be put out as a Coldcut remix with Shumbura and Aaron of this Shinge track. So when I look back, we've done quite a few off the ball collaborations like that. There's almost enough to gather together into an album. But I think we'll cook it a bit more first.
I mean, are you the kind of person that goes into the studio every day, sort of Aphex Twin type, can't be kept out, or are you more, I don't know, as and when the idea strikes you?
No, I'm ashamed to say I spend far too much time kind of doing email and glued to my screen and trying to do other projects. And I'd love to just do music all the time, but I haven't been, because I've been busy with other stuff. I mean, if I look back at what we've been doing over the last 40 years, in terms of sort of R&D and inventions and audiovisualism, other forms of experimentation, that's where my energy's gone into. And I'm broadly happy with the results. Not everything's been a smashing success, but I think the R&D is difficult and expensive and time consuming. But there's been sufficient killer outputs from it to justify that direction, I think. Zen Delay was a good one.
Yeah.
I'd rather have made the Zen Delay than another album, to be honest. Earned us a fuckload more money as well.
But how about, do you have one person you would still love to work with, one kind of vocalist that you're like, oh, if I could just get them?
Well, an obvious answer is George Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
I must say the Sly Stone documentary, Sly Lives, that blew my mind, actually.
That was great.
He went straight in at number 1 in my all-time Black heroes pantheon.
Yeah.
In fact, possibly knocking George and James Brown off. But, those guys are kind of my heroes. Obviously, they're George is still going, bless him, George Clinton. If I was a bit more awake, I could probably think of modern people. But I mean, Rakim, actually, he's been on our hit list for a while. We have reached out a few times, but we haven't heard back. He must be chilling in his mansion. But that his sort of supernatural take on rap was really fucking unique and so influential. So perhaps that would be a good name. Yeah.
I did want to ask you about the 80s period, if I may, just because it kind of fascinates me, because as I say, I was about 8. Did you feel... Okay, so for me, anyone who was on Top of the Pops was a pop star. And you were on Top of the Pops, right?
So I'm going to just dial back. I dial in Bjork, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Bjork. And I really respect someone who's done their own thing and then has still managed to be commercially successful, but totally seems to have done it on their terms. I really respect that.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a disappointment, actually. I think Bjork and Coldcut could have been a really great mix, and maybe that could still happen.
I'm sort of surprised it hasn't happened, actually, at some point.
Yeah. It's just laziness on our part, I think. But you can't do everything. But no. Yeah, she would be great. Went to Iceland last year, played at an ambient festival there, which was fantastic, actually. A very interesting country.
I've never been. I always wanted to go, but I heard it was incredibly expensive, and it put me off slightly.
It is expensive, yes. Yeah. But then minimum wage there's like 30 euros an hour.
Ah, right. That helps.
I don't think anyone starves in Iceland. Plus your electric bill's like £5 a month because they got all free geothermal and stuff because they're sorted like that. Plus they jailed the bankers as well. So there's a lot of good things about Iceland.
Amazing country. But Top of the Pops, you were on Top of the Pops, right?
I was on Top of the Pops, right?
Did you feel like a pop star?
Well, obviously it's a fucking lifetime ambition thing, but you know, it was great. It was great, but you know, things are seldom what they seem. Do you remember the lovely big top of the pop sign?
Oh yeah.
Sign, right? But when you get there and you see that, you find it's just sort of made of expanded polystyrene. It's all like quite chipped and fucked up, and you know, they just light it and it looks great, but when the reality didn't quite measure up, and sometimes it can be a bit like that.
It's quite a personal question, but did you ever think that you were bringing house music to 8-year-olds at the time?
No, I think we just thought about, you know, our audience was basically broadly people like us.
Okay.
You know, but John and I always liked kids' records. We used to mix in kids' stories and phrases, a spoken word, and you know, Gregory Isaac's version of Puff the Magic Dragon's a killer tune. And I think John and we might not have thought about house music for 8-year-olds, but I think we had and still have a playful attitude, and that's kept us interested and yeah, still with some juice.
Well, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for indulging my Top of the Pops youthful obsession.
To remember it, actually, mate.
So what?
You don't look old enough to remember Top of the Pops.
Well, that's very, very kind of you. But yeah, sadly, I am. Summers is coming out, Record Store Day, as I mentioned. Eco Mix Marble 2LP with a mirror board printed sleeve. So it looks lovely, right?
It does look lovely. Yes, it does look lovely.
Do you still buy lots of records?
Nope.
Okay.
John does. John's the collector. He's always been the vinyl head. I'm happy with my digital system, and you know, I do love vinyl, and that direct hands-on vinyl interface for making sound and accessing it is a wonderful thing, but I don't personally use it. I can do more on my phone with my app than I ever could with 2 decks and a mixer.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I'm fully into it.
With which app?
With Jam.
Okay, right.
I can play a live set off my phone and it will be good, you know. So yeah, I don't buy records, but I will collect music on Bandcamp from time to time, and I'll also play off Tidal DJ on my iPad using Algorithm DJ Pro, and I'll do requests. You wouldn't have heard me saying that 20 years ago, but at least if someone requests something, at least someone's going to like it.
You do requests. I mean, presumably they've got a kind of. When was the last time someone requested something really good?
Oh, all the time. I've become quite close friends with Brian Eno. I love that guy. He's a sort of mentor, someone I really admire. I haven't had that in my lifetime, in my career, actually. And Brian started this creative activism group called Hard Art. I've become part of that, and I've met a bunch of people there. It's a good group to be part of. And we have little parties and so on, and sometimes I get on the decks and play some tunes. And I say I'll do requests, and people come up and request the Brothers Johnson stomp or something, and I will cheerfully pull it out. I don't mind. Music is software. It can be judged on how useful it is in a given context. Some people want disco ball, 4 on the floor for a night out with the girls. That's good. If I'm there and they need someone to play it, I'll play it. But generally, that can be catered for elsewhere. But it's good to be. I think when I was younger, it's when you're young, it's more useful perhaps to sort of build your identity around your group of friends, your taste in music, and saying, yeah, this is what we like, and we don't like this. And then as you get older, you might release that a little bit and become more accepting of other people's tastes and points of view. Once you've got your identity, but you can also respect other people's identities as well. So I think I'm in that space with music.
Well, the next time I see you DJing, I'm going to request Sheryl Crow, "Every Day's a Winding Road," which I think would absolutely bring the house down at the right club.
Right on. Okay.
It's a great
Play
song. You say that now. You say that now.
I don't even know that song, right? So you've recommended it. You're a cool guy. I'm sure I'm going to think like this is a good track. So it's about being open.
Well, you're very.
I've got a new phrase which is guiding me at the moment, and it's "let's boot up the network." So in terms of new directions, that phrase kind of lenses what I'm trying to do. So there is a bunch of people I constantly meet who are working on positive change and creativity, and are good people, and that's a network. But we need to surface it so we can see it, recognize it, that think we are a powerful group of people who want to have a better, happier, more musical world to live in. We need to start energizing the network, working with each other, recognizing, working with each other, collaborating, putting our energy into a network which can help us. And then we need to grow the network. So that's Button, BUTN, boot up the network. Watch this space.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time. You've been very generous. It's been an absolute pleasure. And well, I can't wait to hear whatever the next thing is you do.
Oh, good luck with the show. Good luck with the festival.
Thank you.